You have found Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. We're locally underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie. Today, we're welcoming / preparing to learn from Bill Nussey, a career tech CEO and author of Freeing Energy. And I got to say, Bill has got a TED Talk, which is cool, though I guess he let me know it's a little outdated. And he's just got a lot of stuff going on. So I'm excited to interview Bill and I guess for the world to get to know what he's got going on. So Bill, how are things going today?
Well, James, yeah, I'm excited to be here. I love what you're doing with the show. You know, this is I shifted my whole career over to clean energy a couple of years ago, and honestly, this is probably the biggest week for everyone in that industry in the last 10 years. The government just passed this giant law that's going to make it one of the best businesses you could possibly be in for the next 20 years. It's an exciting time for business people in this space.
So I know this much, I guess, as far as what that bill includes. So you are probably way more into it. So can you tell me specifically what's included in the bill, just so myself and the other listeners?
Yeah. So, there's all kinds of debates about how we should power our cars, power our grid. And the fact is that we have been powering these for decades, century, really, with fossil fuels. And it works great. We built an entire, one of the greatest nations on earth with it. People started realizing 30, 40 years ago that, well, the consequences of burning fossil fuels has issues for the environment. And so there's been this giant battle politically over the last 30 years is what do we do about that? Some people say, hey, it's not that big a deal. Other people say it's destroying the future, and they don't get anywhere. Well, somewhat amazingly, Congress managed to do something. They shoved it through, the Democrats did, and they passed a law that's going to create huge incentives for businesses to make investments in this in every area of renewable and clean energy. And that's what I love about this is, there's things people talk about carbon, right? That's really important.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about it, in addition to that, is that this is going to create millions of jobs all over, not just in concentrated places where we have oil or where the wind blows the strongest, all over the country. It's going to create thousands, tens of thousands of new businesses. So people that want to take care of themselves and have their own, control their own future. This is going to make it easier, faster, and more lucrative to get into this industry than it's ever been before.
Nice.
The cool thing is that this is in my view, I'm not a policy expert, but I sort of live really, I pretend to be one on podcasts. This is a business-centric plan. This isn't let's just write checks and give it to the local governments. This is let's motivate businesses to get into this business. And they're doing it through the mechanism used almost everywhere in this is tax breaks. So if you build something or you make some energy, you're going to get a tax break. You could have a big discussion. I've done months of research, talked to experts on, fossil fuels get tax breaks, solar gets tax breaks. So we can debate how much. Suffice it to say that if solar and wind got tax breaks of X, now they're getting 3 or 4X.
Interesting. Okay.
And I would say that kind of equalizes it with fossil fuels, but someone who does this for a living might argue with my generalizations there.
Sure.
But it's a big step, and it's going to create tons of business opportunities, which is what I love.
It's interesting. I'm based out of Wisconsin. My wife drives a Prius, and she's got to pay more for her Prius because it's a hybrid than a person with a non-hybrid car has to pay every year when she renews.
Really interesting.
Yeah. I want to say it's extra $50 a year or something like that.
Well, and I love to see both sides of every story. And the answer for that, so here in Georgia where I live, the electric vehicles, of which I drive one, you pay a larger tax. And like, what? How can you charge me more? We're clean. Well, it turns out that the government actually keeps the highways maintained by taxing a little bit of gasoline. Mm-hmm. So if you buy less gasoline or no gasoline in the case of an EV, the government doesn't get as much money to maintain the highways.
Interesting. All right.
So that's what I love about this is there's so much. If you dig down on well, really anything in the world, but in this case, this energy thing, there's usually sometimes it's not as crazy as it looks. Not as crazy as it looks.
Fair. I would counter that a little bit with the Prius because when I drive that thing, the mileage is not that great. But I put it in power mode, having fun with that thing, as much fun as you can have with the Prius, which is actually kind of a lot. least off the
Yeah, you know,
line.
you get fixated on that little screen. I had a Prius for years, and it
Yeah.
shows you like what's making the drivetrain turn.
Right.
And you're watching this. It's like watching Tetris or something.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a new world. And
Yeah.
you know,
She would,
3 years ago, no one thought they'd drive an EV, and right now, no one can get an EV because they're back ordered for 3 months, and
right.
honestly, it's about to be a lot worse.
Oh, is it really? Interesting. I
Yeah,
want
I
to,
mean,
while we're talking about the Congress and all that kind of stuff, one of the concerns that I have is that if I were to start a business in this, let's just say I start, I don't know, wind farm company or
yeah,
something like that. I don't know if that's a thing, but let's just
it
say I
is.
do that.
It is.
And then um, Congress shifts, and they're like, hey, funny story. We're no longer going to give these incentives.
Yeah.
And now my business that was making bank, throwing up windmills everywhere. Now there's less customers and all this kind of stuff. Now my business doesn't have anything to fall back on. Because I feel like there's an ebb and a flow where people are like, you rah environmental stuff. And then the next group of rule makers come in and say, nah, we like the way it was before.
I hear you. It's like a pendulum, right? You know, and the joke,
Huge.
the cynical view is that the United States can't make policy past the next presidential election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been in a whipsaw, and I'd say there's a pretty good chance. I mean, who knows? You probably follow this stuff closer than me, but there's a pretty good chance we will swing the other way in the next 2 or 3 years. And but here's the thing: one of the reasons I like this new law is the number of people, regardless of how they vote, that are going to get upset if you take money out of their pocket
Mm-hmm.
is pretty large.
Mm-hmm.
And the original grandfather of all these laws was something called the investment tax credit, which was put out under George Bush.
Okay.
This is back when Republicans thought that clean energy was a good thing, and they shifted in the last couple of years. But and so then Obama came in. So then the Bush renewed it.
Mm-hmm.
Obama renewed it. Trump renewed it. And then finally it was starting to wind down. And what this does is it just pushes it back up to, instead of giving it a 4-year and then it's going to wind down, it gives it a 10-year and it's going to wind down. But all political parties have supported the this singular thing. It's called the solar investment tax credit. And all it does is if you put up a solar thing on your roof, you put it up in 1,000 acres down in a field outside your city, you're going to get 30% of the money you spend as a tax break on anything where you're going to make some profit.
That's substantial. All right.
And so what they did with this law was that idea worked. And so they're applying it to other kinds of renewable and clean technologies. So now nuclear gets it. The one kind of energy, not energy, but the one kind of clean technology that everybody loves, the right, the left, the center, Europeans, Chinese, everyone loves is hydrogen. And scientists can debate, economists can debate whether hydrogen really is the future thing or not, but politicians love it. And so hydrogen also gets this nice tax incentive that has been historically for solar.
Interesting.
So
hydrogen,
they took that idea.
Hydrogen to me, I guess, I pay attention to cars and all this kind of stuff. And I remember 2009-ish, hydrogen was like the you-rah-rah next big thing. Yep. And then it seemed to kind of go away. So it's back, or is it more grid-like? Not necessarily
more grid-like.
Okay.
More grid-like. One of the things I love about business, man, is that I love about business is you can get all the PhDs and the economists and the politicians. They could do their 4-quadrant graphs and here's what the future is going to look like. And so we've been asking those people for 20 or 30 years, what's the future of transportation like? And they all said hydrogen.
Yeah.
Right? And then this dude born in South Africa who made a bunch of money on PayPal says, you know what? I'm going to take a bunch of laptop batteries, throw them in the bottom of a car and make an electric vehicle called Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody said, you can't use a bunch of laptop batteries to make a car. That's ludicrous. You got to do hydrogen electrolyzers and, all that stuff. And guess what? This one guy and a team of brilliant scientists changed the world, and hydrogen went away because Tesla showed that you can actually make a better car with batteries.
Yeah.
And so hydrogen is, you might see hydrogen in like airplanes and trains and other things that have a lot of weight, need to run for a very long time because batteries, the energy density is the thing everyone measures it by.
Mm-hmm.
Hydrogen's more energy dense than a lithium ion battery. Gasoline's also very energy dense. And so you'll see hydrogen in some places, but where it's really going to be big is heating, home heating, industrial heating. You're going
Okay.
to see it for grids. The debate, one of the debates is grid storage. So if I take a bunch of solar and wind, maybe I have more than I need right now, so I turn it into hydrogen, stick it underground, and then when it's dark, it's nighttime, or the wind isn't blowing, or it's winter, or whatever, I take it out of the ground and I run it through something called a fuel cell, which directly converts hydrogen directly into electricity, water, water. And so basically you do that, and then you got a basically giant battery. So that's another area. But hydrogen is already a massive industry. We use it as a feedstock for all kinds of products. And today we get hydrogen by taking natural gas and breaking it apart. So it's a lot of CO2 when you make hydrogen today. But so we make it cleanly. You're just gonna take a giant industry and shift it to a clean industry. But then all the new things we just talked about could make it even bigger.
Interesting.
I
love talking with people about this that understand the business aspect, the environmental aspect, what the end goal is, which I think I'd like to believe that the majority of people's goal is to just keep the world spinning and have fun.
Yeah.
So I feel like everyone's kind of on the same team, but they're acting like they're on different teams.
Amen, brother.
Anyways, it's
what I think what's everybody wants? They want a cold beer and a hot shower. That's is everybody wants that, right? And
that both of those sound great. Maybe at the same time.
and so I haven't tried that. But and it takes the tremendous systems to make that happen. To heat your water, to make the beer, to ship the beer, to make it cold. But it's always sort of that one thing that everyone agrees on is it's a joke, right? But it's they want a hot shower and a cold beer. Funny. And so how do we make that happen? How do you not mess with my hot shower and cold beer?
Right. Interesting. It's my father-in-law and I had this conversation when I don't know if we saw a Tesla roll by or whatever. And I was talking about how I can see semi trucks on interstates and stuff like that within a few years actually being driverless.
Yeah.
And he's like, no way. And I'm like, well, I just crossed the country on the road. And I can tell you, I like to drive at night when there's not that many people on the road. I can tell you when I passed an exit ramp and it's backed up with semis that have to park for X amount of time and they have nowhere to go, that they're not just parking there because they like it, right? That's parked out of necessity. Legally. And if I'm the guy that owns that semi, if I have the choice of that thing working 23 hours a day instead of 12 hours a day or whatever it is, I'm going to choose 23 every time. So it's interesting because he's like, no way.
Well, people can't get their head around it, but my son worked at Waymo, which is the company that Google created that has self-driving cars.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I signed a stack of NDAs, and now anyone can do it if you go out to Arizona and California. But at the time, this was kind of secret. And this car drove itself, and I'm not talking highways, which is relatively easy. I mean, it was navigating intersections with 30 cars and 50 people on bicycles and pedestrians, and it was navigating them. It was all computer. So I've seen the future, my friend, and it is autonomous. Trucks on a highway are super easy compared to driving a small car in a crowded pedestrian area.
Yeah, I guess from my point of view, I always thought it's like last mile is the hardest.
Yes.
But if you're doing warehouse to warehouse on the interstate across the country, wherever, I could see that being very low hanging fruit.
I think I'm in your camp and not on that one. I think it's going to happen pretty soon. But it's an exciting time. A lot of change. People don't like change. And that's why I wrote this book, Freeing Energy, because I think there's a much bigger change happening in how we generate energy than even the story of clean energy.
Yeah.
Right? There's a bigger shift coming, and I got so excited about it, and nobody was talking about it. So I set aside this, decades of building and exiting software tech companies to write this down and tell the world. And it was kind of fun. And it's been a ton of fun because it started some great conversations and hopefully inspires a ton of people to get into businesses, which is my goal. I love to see small businesses get started. I love to see entrepreneurs, someone wake up and say, I'm paying my own salary now. Maybe I have some equity in a venture capitalist. I'm really going to go crazy. But most businesses don't need that, don't want that. Either way, just every time you create a business, I think it's the best thing ever. And this is clean energy is going to create a lot of businesses, but what my book's about is there's a side of that, just the small scale stuff, the rooftop, the commercial scale. I think that's going to be much bigger than anybody's talking about.
Nice. Let's talk about you and where you originally started in business way back when.
It's a long time ago. We're not going to discuss my age, but I started my first software company when I was 15. and that was fairly unique back then. We were writing code and selling it nationally, and I learned something really important early in life, that I couldn't throw a ball to save my life. Didn't have an ounce of cool about me, but if I had my own company, I could actually get dates.
There you
So
go.
and then I fell in love with business, and it was cool. And so for the first time in my life, I was cool, and ever since then, I've been building businesses trying to be cool.
All right.
And so I had my first serious big company in college, and ended up selling that after I graduated and went to business school. Got involved with a couple other early stage companies and grew them, and took one public. Got to ring the bell, which was cool.
Nice.
And been a venture capitalist. Apologize to anyone who's ever had to deal with one of those. And then I figured clean energy was the biggest business opportunity in the history of the world. So I had to be in it, which is why I wrote that book, so I could figure it out.
Nice. Tell me about the IPO, because that process is still something that I've always wanted to learn more about. And I feel like there's a dark art, I guess, to it, but it seems so freaking cool.
Geez, it was one of the most stressful things I've ever done in my entire life.
Oh, wow.
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, but that's what you have your show for. People read about somebody who thinks, you read about so-and-so who raised all this money, and they're flying around in their jet and dating, supermodels, guys or girls. And, but that's not what it's really like. And the term I use is almost everything I've ever done is a slog. And someone once asked me, Bill, what's the secret to, how do you get to be a CEO that takes companies public and has exits? And I sold my last company to IBM for $300 million. How do you do that? And I said, because I'm too stupid to give up. And it's grueling. So on the IPO, we had grown this company at an amazing rate. It was one of the top companies in its field. And this was in 99 when things were really hot. And this is at the hottest of hot times in internet, and all that internet was new. And we basically the company, what it did was it worked with very large corporations, because no one was on the internet then. No one had a website. So we would go to the largest companies in the world, like General Electric and Virgin and Home Depot, and we basically built them their first ever internet business.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And everyone was lined up. We used to joke, this is such a hot business, and it shows the age of the company, but we used to joke that we had a bad sales week when the fax machine ran out of paper. And right. And so it was a heady time. And everyone says, hey, it's a hot business, you got to take it public. So that was tough. So what you do is you hire an investment banker.
All right.
And we found one of the top investment bankers. We sat down and spent a ton of time with them. They loved us. They were ready to take us public. And they looked at us and said, one day he called me up and said, you know what? You're not ready to go public. It's like, what? Wait a minute. Why did we spend the last 6 weeks preparing? Why did we write these documents? They said, well, you're just not ready. Well, guess what? 2 weeks later, they took my arch competitor public. So I'm just telling you, this is not for the faint of heart. I aged a lot. So then you get a banker that's not going to stab you in the back, and we found a better one. And so they basically, you spend 3 weeks, at least that's how we did it back a couple years ago, and you go and talk to 3 or 4 large investment banks a day. So you get in front of this, like Fidelity or Tiger. These guys make private investments now, but back then the only thing they would buy is pre-public companies. And you pitch them, and they hit you. Well, this, we don't like this number. Your growth in Asia isn't that good, or your CFO doesn't have this background. And they, and then eventually some of them decide to write checks. And then what they do is the bankers corral all that together, and they put together what they call the book, which is where they add up all the people that are going to write the checks. So Fidelity's in for 20 million, and Tiger's out. They're not going to do it. And so-and-so is the California pension fund's going to come in for 2 million. And they add it up until you get to a certain number. And then they want to get a clearing price. So you want the stock to be X, and the bankers do all this. And meanwhile, your heart's racing at 150 beats per minute. You're sweating, and you can't sleep at night, and you've got ulcers. And what happened in the very first time we did this was we couldn't get the clearing price.
Oh,
and so then you're like, this whole thing, all this work isn't going to work. And so then you just pull. That's where the entrepreneurs come in. And we had a chairman of the company who was just a machine. And he gets on the phone and I'm on the phone and we're just calling people, say, listen, come in for the clearing price. You got to do the clearing price. By the end of the night, we had to hit the clearing price. And the next morning we put it out there. The thing, declared that we were public. Everyone could start trading our stock publicly. We went to NASDAQ. There's a button there. It's not actually a bell. That's the New York Stock Exchange. There's a button. You bang, you press the button, and all the screens light up with your name, and you see your name on the wall on the Times Square. You're kind of famous for like 24 hours, and then
that's cool.
Then all the investors are like, "Well, how come you haven't grown more? How come your profits aren't better? How come you had this number that we don't like?" And then you do that for the next couple of years, which I did.
Wow. So is the business still around?
It got acquired,
Okay.
and the acquired company is still around.
Gotcha. Okay. So, I mean, because 99, that was forever ago.
It was a long time
Especially
ago.
for a website company.
It was one of the first in the world.
Wow.
And then I did this company that was one of the first to do digital marketing. And actually, the first book I wrote was how the digital marketing is going to become a thing, because no one thought digital marketing was going to matter. It's going to be television and billboards and newspapers. Yeah. And so I said, no, digital marketing is going to be really huge. Here's how it's going to work. It's targetable. It's going to have ads and search and all this. And we built a company around that, and it worked. And we sold that company to IBM for $300 million later, and it became the IBM's marketing cloud.
Wow. Well, that's impressive.
So here I am sitting in the conference room with all these IBM execs doing interviews with the Financial Times and Wall Street Journal about this acquisition. And I stepped outside, went into another conference room by myself, sat there. Mm-hmm. And, getting the company to that acquisition was probably the most soul crushing thing I'd ever. It was slog with a capital S, capital L, capital O, capital. It was hard.
All right.
And it impacted my marriage. It was hard to get to that point. So for the moment, I was really in that glory 30 minutes where it all came together, and it might have even been worth it. And I was sitting there thinking, well, I could retire. I could do, what am I going to do? And I just got hit. I didn't expect it. It just hit me. It's like, there's all these people that are trying to make a difference in the world in a bigger way. And they don't have my resume, and they don't have my bank account, and they don't have my business experience and network. And I said, how could I not put as much back into the bigger world as these people are doing? Yeah. And then I'm like, damn, that's not as fun. But I started a quest to find, what could I do that would matter? What could I do that would make a difference? And that's what started me down the path over the next couple of years. What is the most interesting new business area? Because I was part of the rise of personal computers. I was in, the internet business, smartphone business, as digital marketing came about. I was part of these massive transitions. So what's going to be the next big one? And that's when I stumbled into clean energy, biggest ever. But the way I was looking at it, James, people say, no, Bill, you're an outsider. You don't understand. And you're optimistic, or you're ideal. You have too much idealism. And I instinctively, what a real entrepreneur would do is they'd go and start some billion-dollar company, but I write a book. And so I traveled all over the world. I talked to the founder of the largest solar manufacturer in China. I sat in mud huts with people that had just gotten electricity for the first time in their lives. I climbed to the top of a wind turbine 300 feet in the air with a wind turbine, and I was having a great time. And meanwhile, my bank account's going down because we'd given away the biggest chunk of the money. That was my wife's mandate when we sold the company to IBM. She says, you can't have enough money to retire because you're going to lose your fire. Oh,
you're not hungry.
Yeah. So she said, we're going to give it away, which has been awesome. We've been giving it away mostly to electrify poor places in the world, and to fund me to write this book.
All right.
And so we finally got the book finished. Got it out. People said, the whole thesis of these small scale systems are going to disrupt the grid in the same way that personal computers disrupted mainframes.
Oh.
And it's going to be just as big a deal.
All right.
In 10, 15, 20 years, we're going to look at a giant coal plant the same way we look at a mainframe today. We need them. Glad they're around, but gosh darn it, that's not the interesting stuff anymore. And the future doesn't involve more mainframes. And the same thing will happen with the grid. And so people told me I was crazy. The book came out, and I don't think anyone who's read the book said I'm crazy anymore. I mean, I researched the dickens out of it and interviewed 400 people, have, I think, 350 citations with government data and spreadsheets and all this and the cases, and it's lots of fun stories, like I visiting that guy in that hut in Africa, right? His name was Francis. I'm sitting down with Francis through a translator, and Francis is his ragged clothes, poor mud hut. And he tells me that, he has a family, has children, but they left him. And I see an empty bottle of gin on on a piece of furniture. And he says, look up at the ceiling up here. And I'm looking up and it's all black on the ceiling. And he says, that was from the kerosene. And my children were choking, and they try to study, and they wouldn't study because the kerosene was so expensive I couldn't afford it. And he said, then these guys came here and they sold me this little, and there's actually, your listeners can't see it, but I got this little thing right behind me. Whoops, wait a minute, here it is, right there. It's a little solar light, and he had a bigger version of that, and it charged it the day, and then at night he turned it on. It's a light, and his kids could study, and they didn't have to choke, and it was much cheaper than kerosene. And he said, so I'm sitting there in his house, and he says, I don't have enough money to pay for it every day. I pay for it by the day. I go to my cell phone and I wire. This is how it works in Africa. You use your mobile phone. They don't do cash and they don't do checks. They just mobile phone money to each other like Venmo. But
Wow.
And he mobile phones 40 cents in when he has the money, and then he gets power and he can charge his phone and he gets light. And I said, so how's it change your life? And he looks at me and he says, well, there's this woman down the road, and I kind of like her. And when I can afford it, she comes over and charges her phone. And he says, I think she's starting to like me. I was like, you know what? That was it. It was all about this guy's had the same thing you and I have, and everybody, you just want to meet people that you care about. You want to hang out with people you love.
Mhm.
And it was so interesting to see how electricity was that for this man. And how this crazy technology, this little device that you and I wouldn't think twice about, with pocket change, it's a tip we give for a nice dinner, right?
Mhm.
For him, it changes life. And I was like, this is an amazing industry. It's
Yeah.
not just Africa. It's not just other poor or low income parts of the world. It's also, resilience in Puerto Rico and Louisiana and Texas and California. I mean, this small scale stuff is changing the world. And that's what the whole mission of my Freeing Energy podcast, my Free Energy book is about. And that's what was, kind of excited to talk to you today, to sort of just put that little bug in people's ear when they're thinking about, maybe I want to do something that really matters. How do I make some investments?
Mhm.
What's the next hot thing? And that's really the message I want to get out there. I got nothing to sell. If someone doesn't have the money to buy the book, I'll give them a free copy. Seriously, just let me know. I'll send you some free copies. But I think this is just something that's like, if I could go back and tell people in 1992, there's going to be this thing called the internet. That's what I'm doing.
All right. Very cool. So tell me, let's start. We touched on a lot of stuff there. So I want to talk about starting the microgrids that you touched on a little bit, because this is kind of top of mind now, because this is part of that same conversation I had with my father-in-law, where I'm like, because he was talking about, this was a few weeks ago, when California is complaining that their grid can't handle electric vehicles because everybody's coming home at night, turning the AC on, charging their Teslas. And because of that, no one has light or anything like that, right? It's all, you got to keep in mind, this guy's from northern Minnesota, so a little touch of hillbilly in him.
All right.
So
and I hope your father-in-law does not listen to this podcast and hear you.
I would love it if he did, but probably not. No, we're not a sports talk channel.
There you go.
Yeah, truth.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I was telling him, I don't think that the grids, like you're saying, are going to be this huge thing and then distribution from there. I think they're going to be more localized. So I'd love to hear more information on that, because that was me, pure speculation with no data.
Well, you have the intuition towards this that I would say the vast majority of people don't. Because, hey, listen, it's worked this way for 100 years. We've had giant power plants for 100 years. Got the utility. I don't know who they are or what they do, but I pay them some random amount of money every month, but it seems to work really well, generally speaking. Why would I want to mess with that? And so people just don't get their head around that these small scale systems are a viable alternative. But here's the thing that really makes the big difference, with two things. First of all, wind and solar and batteries are all part of this equation, right? But wind and solar are very different things. Both awesome, love as much as we can get. But wind is a giant machine that requires trucks and cranes to make. Solar is a little thing that I can have on the shelf behind me that guy, Francis in Africa, can use. Solar is a technology. It's not a fuel and it's not a machine. It's a technology. And this is the part that people who think about the grid miss. The technology follows these cost curves like your iPhone, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't surprise you if you go back and look at your iPhone from 10 years ago that your current iPhone or whatever it is, whatever smartphone you have is way better.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not sitting there stopping and saying, holy cow, I'm paying the same amount. I'm getting a phone that's 100 times better. But that's exactly what solar and batteries are. They're technologies just like your phone. And yet the people that plan the grid just absolutely do not have their head around the fact that, like phones, in 10 years, they're going to be crazy cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you take a look at any any forecast by serious people, including fossil fuel people like BP, and they'll tell you the price of solar is plummeting. The thing is, people just don't think through what that means. So that's the first thing, is the solar and battery are technologies. We make them by the billions in factories, all automated, all over the world. Now with this new law, we'll make them in the US again, thank goodness.
Nice.
And so they're going to get cheaper and cheaper. So people kind of, they don't plan on that, but that's a fact. No one's disputing it when they really think about it. They don't think about the implications. But one of the implications, it kind of really was a story I tell in the book, is I was talking to a big utility executive, and he says, and he agrees that solar is going to get cheaper. He's excited about it. And he says, listen, Bill, if someone wants to put solar on the roof, they want to do their environmental thing, check the environmental box, more power to them. But, I'm just a dollar and cents guy, he tells me. He says, in the end, it's always going to be cheaper to build a giant solar farm in a giant field someplace than it is to put it on the roof. It's so much more expensive to put it on the roof per kilowatt hour generator or whatever than it is to put in a field. And I let it hang there for a second. And I said, it's cheaper for you, the utility. No one ever said that to him before. He thinks about it for a minute. And I said, so let me pressure test that with you. And I said, so if you build that giant solar farm out in that field, will my electric bill go down the day after it's turned on? Exactly, right? You get it. And he says nothing. I said, now, if I put solar on my roof and I turn it on, my electricity bill goes down immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm confused about what you think cheaper is. I think what you're saying is it's cheaper for you to build a giant solar farm. But the cool thing about solar is it's cheaper. And if you're the utility and you build it, your profits go up.
Mm-hmm.
So love solar, right? It's not that simple, but generally speaking, generalizing, if you put it on your roof, the consumer has more money in their wallet at the end of every month.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of the debate about this small scale stuff that my book talks about, and talks a lot about the actual debate and the laws and the stories, is who gets the profits from cheap solar? Is it the utility, or is it you and me and our neighbors and our father?
Oh, because I suppose you're supposed to have a public service commission that should govern that. But I think that's made up, at least in Wisconsin, of utility companies.
It's here in Georgia, it was just the federal government just declared the way that we elect public utility commissioners in the state of Georgia is illegal.
Oh,
They shut down the election.
minor details.
But we're one of 13 states where we actually where the citizens vote for them. In most places, they're appointed by the governor.
Okay.
But I would say 99.999% of Americans have absolutely no idea what a public utility commissioner is, who they are,
Right.
what they do. But in my book, I've got a section called the 201 people that control all electricity in the United States.
Wow.
That's a cool job, right?
All
You
right.
get to control, like if you're in Georgia, you're one of the 5 people that we vote. You get to do things like, yeah, let's build a $10 billion nuclear plant. That's going to be cool. Oh, bummer. It's going to be $30 billion, but we'll just raise the rates on everybody to cover it. Right. I actually, I know these people. They're great people. These are hard decisions. I don't mean to make too light of it. But it's a cool job that you don't have you got the utility looking over your shoulder and everything you do. And you got a couple, advocacy groups looking over your shoulder, but generally you have a lot of power that no one really appreciates.
Yeah.
And it's
Interesting.
So those folks generally are looking after our best interest, but out in California, they got darn confused last year, and they decided that California, which is typically the most green state, always doing the best for its citizens of most states, at least from the citizens' point of view, they just did a 180, and they were going to make solar so expensive, rooftop solar so expensive that it would have stopped the industry and killed it dead in the next day. And
Wow.
so, it's even California it's complicated stuff. This is
Yeah.
policy and politics and tax breaks and incentives. It's just complicated. But the other one that was crazy was down in Florida. Some journalists down there found that the Florida legislature passed a bill that basically made rooftop solar was the economics and the policies around it would make it so expensive that it would shut down rooftop solar in the state. And it was passed along party lines in legislature. Republicans voted for it, Democrats voted against it, and some journalists found that the Freedom of Information Act, an email. This is what I've read. I wasn't there, but the law was actually emailed from the utility. Here, please pass this law, right? So they did, and everyone expected that the famous governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, would of course approve the bill. What did he do? He vetoed it.
Oh.
Which was this is why local energy, not this giant clean stuff the federal government's focused on, but this local stuff where families, communities, entrepreneurs, small businesses are, everyone loves it. Ron DeSantis does not want to mess with it. He said 85%. Why did you veto this, Ron? He said 85% of Floridians want rooftop solar. And he said it's got, it's driving massive small business growth. It's puts money in the pockets of Floridians. Why would I stop this? So this is what's cool about freeing energy and what I call local energy is that it actually rises above all the political mess. Everybody likes it. Everybody likes it.
All right. Well, very cool. So you wrote your book how long ago?
It came out December last year.
Okay, so that's pretty recent. Well,
Yes.
maybe. I guess besides this bill that just recently passed, have things changed from I guess what you learned in the book or what you were sharing in the book? Because this seems to be just like with any new technology or newer technology that's got some muscle behind it. Things are changing fast.
Yeah.
So is there? I mean, I don't
this-
even know what that would be. New, bigger, fancier solar panels, or I don't know.
It's the solar panels are kind of like like your phone. Every time you upgrade your phone, you're probably paying roughly the same amount for the previous phone, but you're getting more phone for it. And so the solar panels every month or two get a little cheaper, and over the course of a year or two, they're much cheaper, and that's a very exciting change. But here's the crazy thing about that's I think people are realizing in 2022. So if you go put solar on your roof and you buy solar panels, you get an inverter, you hire an electrician and a team to put it on your roof, in the US, it's going to cost you pretty consistently about $3 a watt. So that means that if you put up a small average size system of 4 kilowatts, 4,000 watts, it's going to be about $12,000. That's a very predictable, consistent number across the US. Now, if you take that exact same solar panel, same manufacturer, same SKU, you take the exact same inverter and you put a bunch of people on the roof in Australia, it's $1.10 a watt, US $1.10.
Whoa.
Converted. So people are like, whoa, wait a minute, what am I missing? Right? How can the exact same, because as it turns out in the US, we have crazy bureaucracy. And Australia had this, I don't know, call it just a spasm of practicality. And they said, why don't we just pass something nationally that streamlines this? Because listen, there's only 20 or 30 brands we care about. We'll just check any solar brand of this, it's fine. Any inverter brand of this. And if a team is qualified, fine. They're going to do, it's the same thing every house. So we don't need to inspect it like it's a brand new bridge every single time. And so they basically in Australia, you call up on Monday morning and say, I'd like solar, and Tuesday afternoon, your house is powered by it. And in the US, it's 2 or 3 weeks. 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, when I got my solar on my roof a couple of years ago, the county inspector, listen, the county's trying to do the best they can. They want to make sure that this bozo is not going to burn my house down because you've got electricity, a lot of electricity involved here. But it turns out these guys aren't bozos. They've done maybe 1,000 of these. They know what they're doing. And so, but the county doesn't have an ability to care about that. So the county said, listen, I'm going to come out Thursday and I'm going to inspect the system. And so I'm thinking, I asked this silly question to the installer who's managing this for me. I said, well, what time Thursday? He laughed at me. He says, that's not how it works. I said, what do you mean? He goes, they come whenever they want. I said, well, wait a minute. what do? I call you when I'm not sure I'm going to be home. He says, no, I got it covered. So, my installer, the head project manager of my installer, sat in my driveway until 2:00 in the afternoon in his pickup, waiting for the county inspector to come by. County inspector came by, said, "Hey, good to see you, man. Oh, good to see you again. Yeah, it's good to see you guys doing a lot of solar projects around here." He says, "All right, let's go through the list. Check, 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 check. You're good. All right, goodbye." And so it built into the cost of my solar installation was the most expensive guy on that solar team waiting in my driveway for 6 hours. They don't do that in Australia. You know how they do it in Australia? They the installer who's done 1,000 of these is this magic thing. It's called a camera phone. He takes the iPhone, he takes a photograph of the installed wiring and submits it to a system. And the system says, this guy's done 1,000 of them. He's a certifying he used the right equipment. And he says, submit, and it comes back approved. Some questions, you might get a call. They might say, well, can you just show us a photograph of this? Okay. All right. 20 minutes later, you're approved. So that's why I get excited about the local energy, because even if the price of solar panels doesn't go down, which it will, the price of batteries don't go down, which they'll go down a lot, we just get rid of this bureaucracy. And think about it, because like today at $3 a watt for almost everyone in America, it's actually cheaper to put solar on your roof than it is to buy electricity from the grid. That's today when it's $3 a watt.
Wow.
What do you think is going to happen when it's 1/3 the price?
Yeah, that's impressive.
And one of the things, and no one's thinking this through. I mean, the utilities aren't thinking this through, but there's a lot of things. I just traveled to Peru with my family, and I got a lot of feedback about what people outside the U.S. think of Americans. Generally nice, at least to my face. But there's one thing about all Americans is there's no American that's going to embrace or accept the following sentence. Well, I know you could do it a lot cheaper if you did it yourself, but we want to make sure that this giant corporation you've never met and don't care about it remains really profitable. That's just not going to work in America, right? So the only reason it's not happening today is because people don't know that it's cheaper. That's one of the reasons I wrote the book.
Interesting.
And I want people not just putting solar on the roof or on their buildings or on their schools or churches, but I want to get entrepreneurs, business people to say, this is like the next internet. This is like the next crypto. This is like the next cannabis. This is a business I want to get into. That's growing like crazy. And unlike all those three things I mentioned, this actually helps the world.
Fair. Totally fair. Whatever happened to the solar shingles that Elon had?
It's really hard to do. And while this guy can design rockets that can go around the moon, it's actually so hard the details of making solar shingles work. He's now on version 3 of the solar shingles, and he still doesn't have it right. And so I have some friends that have solar shingles and have to sign this non-disclosure saying, when I'm finished, I swear I won't tell anybody. I promise, legally binding, I won't tell anybody what I think about it. And a lot of those people are pissed off because it didn't go the way they wanted. And so it doesn't look right, or it's flaky. It doesn't generate enough electricity. So I think Tesla's doing a reasonably good job of just iterating this product until they get it right. And people that want to sign up to be guinea pigs probably wish they'd waited, but they'll get it right. No question. They'll get it right. And what's one of my favorite topics in freeing energy is this thing called building integrated photovoltaics, BIPV, hot term. 3 or 4 years from now, everyone's going to know it. But basically what this means is that the stuff that makes your house or your building that you're going to do anyway, it just happens to be solar too. So rather than taking my roof and putting panels on my roof, I just build the roof, the solar shingles as your example. And then I got a solar powered roof and shingles at the same time. I only have to have the crew on my roof once. And I don't have to pay for actual shingles because I'm covering that with a little tiles, the shingles. I don't have to buy like asphalt shingles. I just have now solar shingles. So it's actually cheaper. Even the stuff that Tesla's struggling to get right, it's still significantly cheaper. If you have to replace your roof, say your 15 years is up, you got to replace your asphalt shingles. It's cheaper to go ahead and get Tesla solar shingles than it is to get a new roof of asphalt shingles and then have someone come put solar panels on your roof. So it's already cheaper. And I just talked to the CEO of a company the other day, and they're an industrial company, and they've got this technology that looks pretty real, and they can put a coating on windows on skyscrapers. and how this is cool. So the problem with windows and skyscrapers is that you got to put a coating on it, because if all the infrared light comes into the building, it just heats it up in your air.
Oh yeah, greenhouse.
Yeah, so they have this all the modern skyscraper glass has this coating on it that keeps the infrared from coming through, right? What these guys figured out is, let's just take that infrared, rather than bounce it back out, let's turn it into electricity.
Whoa, that's
So
next level.
they just basically say, listen, put our windows in your skyscraper, and we're going to generate 40 to 50% of all the electricity your building needs. And you won't have to air condition it much, because we're going to we're actually going to absorb the infrared and turn it into electricity.
Wow.
So this stuff's just, I mean, the thing is so cool is that all these entrepreneurs are jumping in, all these inventors, these small businesses are jumping into this, and they're all creating in their garages and in their basements and in their university labs, are creating all these new ideas. And just like the internet, we're going to wake up one day and we're going to have Netflix, and we're going to equivalent. We're going to have these amazing things we could never have imagined in 2000.
Yeah.
That are just going to be commonplace, because the base of this technology innovation is changing so quickly.
Huh.
That's
That
what gets
is
me
cool.
excited. Gets me so excited.
That's cool. I'm excited for you. And it's one of those things that I'm just watching just from the sidelines, I guess, because I have friends that have solar panels, some fairly new and some that have been around for a long time. And good, bad things. I got my wife with the Prius, whatever. And
you guys are bleeding edge, right? You're the pioneers with the arrows in your back, because you're the first people to be doing it. But these things are getting better and better every year, and it's no longer hard or risky.
It's so funny. I used to have a company where I needed vehicles, and I had some of the old Honda Insights.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
Man.
I love those cars, but it wasn't, I mean, the environmental thing was cool, but I loved them mainly because they're super fun to drive, because I had manual transmission, and they were dirt cheap to run. So when you got your tax thing for per mile every year, I was making money the more we drove.
Right.
So it's interesting, because people are like, tree hugger. And I'm like, I'm actually just really cheap.
James, that's what everyone thinks. This is some kind of ideological environmental tree hugging thing. And that's why I wrote this book. This is business.
Yeah.
And this isn't just big business and Wall Street and giant publicly traded corporations. Those are an important part of it, but that's for 100 years, that's all it's been. If you wanted to be in the local energy business, 10 years ago, your choice was to go get a loan for $500 million and build a coal plant in your backyard, right? No one's going to do that. But because solar has become so cheap, anybody can be in their own energy. It can be their own power plant now, the cleanest, quietest, cheapest kind. And and it really was only 2 years ago where it became cheaper on average in the US to put solar on your roof than it was to buy electricity from the grid. Most people have no idea that's the case.
So that with this new bill, will that go even further down?
It's a great question. So the bill, indirectly, the bill will cause it to go down, but the bill from a residential or commercial solar project, it continues a straight line of it getting cheaper and cheaper every year, but it doesn't make a huge step. But if you're in the hydrogen business or the nuclear business, this is a big step.
Got it. Next thing I want to ask you about was converting cars to electric.
That's so
cool.
Cool.
I see some of the talk about, I guess just the direction that I see the vehicles going is they seem to be going electric at a pretty decent pace. I mean, you could argue that's glacial, but it's ramping up pretty fast. And people are even just normal run of the mill, even some of my hillbilly friends are getting excited for the electric trucks and all that kind of stuff.
Ford 150 Lightning. Got it. I'm on the list. I got to own that.
Yeah. So, and I can't think of the other name, not Tesla.
Rivian.
Yes. These are like the new posters vehicle on the wall that they used to have instead of Lamborghinis when we were kids, kind of thing, which is kind of interesting. So I'm like, wait a second, they all go electric. My old cars aren't going to be able to get gas anywhere.
Oh, so you'll get gas. You'll have no problem getting gas. I promise you that. You'll be your grandkids will be still finding gas stations. But I hear you. But
there's also like I have a Jeep Wrangler, right? It's got the most inefficient engine in the world, and
there is that. Yeah,
super cool to convert it to electric just because it's slow and it burns a ton of gas. So there's no advantage to that engine drive A to B. So I'm like,
my dream is to get one of those old Volkswagen, but the old Volkswagen buses, the little camper things, and put an electric drivetrain in that. That would be so fun. If I had the time, I would do it. But yeah, so there's lots of shops there's one here in town
Okay.
in Atlanta called Exoset that'll do the conversion for you. I believe. I know they've done it for some people,
All
but
right.
generally speaking, you got to have a master mechanic and someone that actually understands not just how to replace an engine, but how to replace the whole drivetrain. And there's some
Gotcha.
risks that you don't do it right, some safety issues. So it's not for the faint of heart, especially if
Okay.
you want a real car. Especially if you want performance.
All right.
But the price of electric cars is just like your iPhone. Every year they're going to get more car, less money. And
Mm-hmm.
2, 3, 4 years, it's going to be cheaper to get a fantastic electric car that'll last you 15 years than it will be to get a gas powered car that'll last you 5.
All right. All right. Yeah, it was one of those things. I had a student in one of my business planning classes 5-6 years ago. He wrote a business plan on he was an engineer, on creating the business to convert vehicles to electric. It was one of those, like, this almost seems like it was so cutting edge
Yeah.
that you may have a hard time finding clients. At least,
But if I had a car, would I drop 10 grand to have someone electrify it? Maybe it'd be fun, especially a classic car, right? I used to have a 1969 Le Mans.
Did you really?
That thing hauled.
Oh, fun.
Right. And if I had it still, I would totally find someone to put an electric drivetrain in it. But yeah, that's going to be a very small market. It's cool.
Yeah.
But small, I think.
Interesting. Okay. Gotcha. I didn't know if that was going to be the new thing or if that's.
No, it's all craftsman work, right? Anybody that can really change out a car, that's a pretty special set of skills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't think it's going to be a big market. So much cheaper just to make one from scratch on an assembly line in Detroit.
All right.
Those are flooding out like a tsunami. Can't get them now because they're so popular.
Right.
Especially with gas being so high.
Gotcha. All right. We are running out of time here, Bill. Is there any place or you'd like to point people, a website they should go to, or just a place they should look at to get their own
if people want to
opinions?
learn more about this, especially if they're innovators or entrepreneurs, they want to get in it, or investors, they want to know where to, I'm not an investment advisor, but if you want to see, if they're interested in the underlying trends that's driving this largest business shift in the history of humanity, I got this book, Free Energy. You can get it on Amazon, get it anywhere you buy books. For people like me that don't like to read and want to listen, I got a great audio version.
Nice.
And people like podcasts, got a podcast called Freeing Energy, and super proud that we just got ranked the #1 renewable energy podcast. So that's, any of those are available. The book's, it's a fun book to read. It's all about stories. There's some math and some graphs, but mostly it's stories of people and entrepreneurs and things like that. So if people want to go dig on it, love it. And hopefully if they enjoy it, let me know. Let me know what you think. And we're just trying to, one person at a time, get the message out there that the future is very different than most people think. And it's a heck of a lot more control, more money in your pocket, cleaner than most people are realizing is possible.
Nice. I love it. I love looking at it from the business side, the environmental side. I enjoy, I understand, I appreciate all the jazz, because what good is money if you don't have a world to spend it in? But from the financial side, I think it's way easier to convince people to go the direction.
That's why I wrote it, man.
So yeah,
I haven't found another book like it. So hopefully if people are interested in this space, they'll take a read and let us know what you think. Nice.
Do you have a website, or how can people get a hold of you?
So freeing energy, not free energy, freeingenergy.com. About the book to read about the book. And you just generally, that's where you can see our podcasts, our articles, our, information about the book. All of it's in that one spot.
Nice. Super cool. Well, thank you so much for Bill for being on the show. This has been enlightening. I mean, one, because you talked about selling businesses, IPO, we got solar, we got the environmental thing. I guess it's safe to say you haven't retired.
No, sir. I am not retiring. I want to try to make a dent in the universe. I've been very lucky in life, in love and health. And so I want to pay it forward and see what I can do to make the world a better place. That is my mission. And I love the fact that you had me here today and let me share with your listeners who are so gratefully share their time with you. And let me share a little bit of my story. Thank you for letting me pass it along, and hope some folks enjoy it.
Super cool. I love it. This has been Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. We're locally underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie. If you are listening or watching this on the web, if you could do us a huge favor, smash that subscribe button, give it the big old thumbs up. And of course, we'd love it when you guys comment and let us know what you think of this, what's going on, and what you'd like to see going on in the future here. My name is James Kademan, and Authentic Business Adventures is brought to you by Calls on Call, offering call answering and receptionist services for service businesses across the country on the web at callsoncall.com. And of course, the Bold Business Book, a book for the entrepreneur and all of us, available wherever fine books are sold. We'd like to thank you, our wonderful listeners, as well as our guest, Bill Nussey, the author of Freeing Energy. Bill, can you tell us that website one more time?
freeingenergy.com.
Easy enough.
freeingenergy.com. Yep.
I love it. Past episodes can be found morning, noon, and night. The podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week. I want you to stay awesome. And if you do nothing else, enjoy your business.